Today we're gonna check out Monster Hunter Rise on Xbox Series S. I'll also be showing how it runs on the Big Brother Series X. This is a day one release on Xbox Game Pass, coming in at only about 27 gigabytes, small game, so definitely check it out if you have Game Pass. All three next-gen consoles, the Series S, the Series X, and the PS5 have two graphic presets, prioritize graphics and prioritize frame rate. Beyond that, you can also tweak a lot of the other settings on the fly, including the resolution. I don't think there's any other console game that gives you the ability to tweak this much graphical settings. Let's first look at the more powerful Series X. I first tested the frame rate with prioritized graphics preset. These settings are pretty much the best and most demanding when it comes to the visual fidelity, and they all run at 4K. The frame rate though is capped at 60 FPS. While running around town, the Series X has no problem holding pretty close to 60 FPS. The frame rate though does drop once you go on hunts and things get a bit more action-packed. It seems to hover between the low to high 50s, but never really holds a solid 60 at any point. With variable refresh rate, this wasn't bad though, and the game for me ran fine. If you do have a monitor or TV that supports over 120 Hz and you want a super high refresh rate, just turn everything down to prioritize frame rate preset. Here the Series X can run up to 120 FPS. The graphics do get toned down and the resolution dips down to about 1080p. While roaming around the village, it's locked to a solid 120 FPS, and surprisingly, even when you're on the hunt, it seems to stay at 120 FPS most of the time. You can see the frame rate counter right here. Now you may notice a frame drop here and there, but it's pretty solid at 120 at these low graphic settings. Now let's check out the less powerful Xbox Series S. The display settings menu is pretty much identical to the Series X and PS5. In this case though, the highest resolution is 1440p. Here I have the graphical settings using prioritized graphics preset, 1440p with max 60 FPS frame rate. While in town, the 60 FPS does hold. When you're on the hunt and fighting monsters, the frame rate does drop. With these maxed out graphics settings, I saw an average of 50 FPS on the Series S. There were no major lag spikes or anything, but the frame rate never really locks to a solid 60. It hovers between 45 and 55 FPS most of the time. Now, I wasn't even sure if the Series S supported 120 Hz mode. There really wasn't any confirmed information from Capcom. The good news is the small little box from Microsoft can run Monster Hunter Rise at ultra high frame rates. Make sure you have a display that can support 120 Hz. Turn down the graphics to prioritize frame rate. The resolution here is likely closer to 720p, and the frame rate is pretty decent as well. I mean, it's not locked to 120 FPS like we saw on the Series X, but it's pretty good. It seems to be closer to 110 FPS on average, and it does stay between 109 and 111 most of the time, which is a pretty narrow range. Even with three large monsters on the screen at the same time, it ran pretty good. Now, since Monster Hunter Rise does give you a lot more flexibility in the advanced graphical settings, I wanted to test that out. So I did bump up the resolution by 25% to about 1080p. With the higher resolution, the frame rate drops to about 94 FPS, which I think is pretty respectable. Now, I did forget to test the 125% resolution, which is closer to 1440p on the Series S, but I suspect it should hold at about 80 FPS at least in that case. Another thing to note are the cutscenes like this one. Those cutscenes are all locked at 30 FPS, and this is regardless of which console you're on, whether the Series S, X, PS5, Switch, or even what graphic settings you're using, it's all 30 FPS. The loading times are another big improvement on the next gen. I felt like I wasn't waiting really at all, other than the times it takes to do online matchmaking. Overall, I think these are some solid games on the next gen consoles. All three, the Series S, Series X, and PS5 run Monster Hunter Rise well. I'm probably going to be asked to compare Series X to PS5. The thing is, I already have 3 copies of this game. One on the Switch, one on PC, and then this new one on Xbox from Game Pass. Capcom sort of refused to give me a review copy, and I refused to buy a 4th copy of the exact same game. So we'll see what happens. I may do that or I may not, depending on how much money I have to spend. For the rest of the video, check out some more gameplay on the Xbox Series S.
Let's go! Sweet. Looks like there's something here.
What's this?
Yeah! Later. Nothing personal,
Mine
buddy.
now.
Here we go. Nothing personal, buddy.